I know. He's a strong, independent man. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I am Congresswoman Kat Cammack, and I proudly represent Florida's 3rd Congressional District. I want to first and foremost thank you guys for being out here today again, because this is an issue that, while in the past has not gotten a lot of coverage, our intention here today is to take the first step. I am so very deeply grateful to my colleague, Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove. Did I say that right?
You did.
Yes! Woo! There's a million ways you can pronounce that.
So many.
Woo! I got to just, when they said lager like beer, it was
That's it.
sold. I was sold. For her support on this life-saving cause, and to Christina Perri for her courage, truthfully courage, to come to Capitol Hill multiple times to tell her story and to put out her personal loss so that it may transform into hope for other women and families. It is truly an honor to stand beside these amazing women. We are here today because far too many families have faced the unimaginable: losing a pregnancy, losing a child, and enduring complications that could have been prevented. In too many cases, the root cause is antiphospholipid, say that 10 times fast, syndrome, or APS. APS is an autoimmune disorder that causes blood clots, and in pregnancy can lead to miscarriage, stillbirth, and severe complications for mother and baby. And here is the most frustrating part: it's treatable and it's preventable. Currently, APS screening is typically only recommended after multiple pregnancy losses. Imagine telling a mother that she must endure not just one, but several miscarriages before doctors will test for a condition that we already know how to manage. That is simply unacceptable. This resolution today addresses the issue by making APS screening a standard part of prenatal care so that no family has to endure preventable tragedies. As a new mom to a 3-week-old baby, and so, I know, I'm a little sleep deprived, so the sunglasses are blocking my dark circles. But also as a woman who endured loss just last year to a very rare ectopic pregnancy, I have seen firsthand the gaps in our healthcare system, particularly as it relates to maternal health. Christina Perri's music has been the soundtrack to many of life's most meaningful moments. Weddings, which, if I'm not mistaken, it is the most played wedding song of the last decade.
One of, but yeah, thank you.
We'll give her credit. Milestones and so many celebrations. But her greatest strength is best demonstrated in her willingness to share her deepest sorrow, the loss of her daughter Rosie, and transforming that pain into purpose. Again, as a mom who has also known the heartbreak of loss, I admire your strength. Christina, your advocacy is giving hope and a voice to countless women and families who have grieved in silence. I am so grateful to my co-lead on this vital legislation, Congresswoman, for not only do we have more division in this country than ever, but this is an opportunity for us to come together. Protecting mothers and babies is not a partisan issue. This is a human one. And as lawmakers, we must do everything in our power to ensure women receive the prenatal care that they deserve. To every family that has endured pregnancy loss or complications linked to APS, we see you, we hear you, and we are fighting for you. My hope is that this resolution will spark the change in our healthcare system, change that means fewer parents grieving and more parents celebrating their child's first birthday, graduations, and milestones. Let's make early detection the norm. Let's make prevention the priority. And let's give families and all Americans the gift of hope instead of heartbreak. Thank you, and I would like to turn the microphone over to my colleague.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman Cammack, for sharing
your story and for your leadership on this issue. I like to say Florida and California can work together. We are finding more ways to do so. And thank you, Christina, for making the long journey to be here today, turning your heartbreak into action so that other women and families might be spared the pain that you endured. I remember when you came to the office, and of course we talked about music and the entertainment industry and the creative economy, but we also talked about this very, very important issue and how we can and must do more. So, at first glance, we may look kind of random, this group of advocates, but what unites us is far deeper than what may appear on the surface. Many of us share journeys to parenthood that are marked by hope, loss, and eventually resilience. I too worked really hard to have a family and suffered multiple miscarriages and actually never got this test. And it was such a journey to endure, incredibly expensive, very invasive, always with the hope of being able to carry a child to term, and then ultimately, sadly, not being able to see that become reality. I eventually stopped that process and moved on to be an amazing step-parent, but I know what it feels like to go through a journey like that, and if we can do one thing like this, then let's do it. My story, unfortunately, is not rare. In the United States, 1 in 5 pregnancies end in miscarriage or stillbirth every single year. 1 in 5. It's not just a pain endured by the woman, but also by the spouse who is on that journey with her. And nearly in half of those cases, families are left without any answers, more questions than answers. And that's why we're here today, to demand answers and solutions that could be found in one simple blood test. We are calling for expanded awareness and screening for Antiphospholipid Syndrome. Yes, an autoimmune blood clotting disorder that affects at least 1 in every 2,000 pregnancies and likely many more that go undiagnosed. Right now, medical guidelines recommend testing for APS only after multiple losses. But what if that were not the case? What if we were proactive and preventative in the kind of healthcare that we offer? It is not rocket science, people. We have updated parental guidelines before, like we did in the 1990s when gestational diabetes screening became standard. We can do it again, and we must do it again for APS. And I'm going to keep it real and be a little controversial. If men could get pregnant, their prenatal care would include testing for every disease imaginable under the sun and the moon. Failing to include APS in routine prenatal testing is not just medical oversight, it is yet another failure in our maternal healthcare system. It is not complicated. It is about smarter, more thoughtful, more compassionate healthcare. And it is far past time for us to get it done. And now I would like to turn it over to the heroine of this press conference story,
Yes.
Christina Perri.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Okay. You guys are so good at this. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Perri. Many people know me as a singer and a songwriter of some pretty popular love songs. But beyond my career, most importantly, my role is mom, which has led me here today. I feel very fortunate that over the past 15 years, most of my dreams have come true. I've written and released so much music that I'm proud of. I've traveled the world many times singing and sharing my stories. I published a children's book. I've celebrated 13 years sober this year. I'm married almost 8 years this December. And my biggest dream of all is that I'm a mother to my 3 daughters, Carmela, Rosie, and Pixie. After welcoming Carmela in 2018, I was excited to be pregnant again. I had a perfectly typical first pregnancy and birth, and since I come from a very large Italian family in Philadelphia, I've always wanted a lot of kids. However, in January of 2020, shortly after learning I was pregnant, I faced the devastating loss of a miscarriage. I was so shocked and heartbroken, but not discouraged. In an effort to dispel the stigma and shame surrounding miscarriages, I shared my experience publicly. I was met with so much love. I found hope and solace in the support of all the women who wrote to me and all the women who navigated this experience. I was told many times how common a first trimester loss is. So I grieved, I wrote some songs about it, and as soon as I felt better, tried again. On Mother's Day in 2020, during the COVID lockdown, my husband Paul and I found out that I was pregnant once again. The joy of my rainbow baby filled our hearts. I was slightly anxious from my previous miscarriage, but I was heavily monitored and the pregnancy was normal all the way until it wasn't. At 9 months pregnant, to the shock of all my doctors and family and friends, on November 24th, 2020, my daughter Rosie's heart stopped and she was born silent. I birthed her, I held her, and I said goodbye. As it goes without saying, it was the absolute worst experience that I could have imagined. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we were broken. Me, my husband Paul, our almost 3-year-old daughter, all of our family and friends, doctors and nurses, and honestly, everyone who heard the news. Lots of parts of this were hard, but the worst moment was telling Carmela that she wasn't going to be a big sister anymore. She was so strong in the moment that we told her, and she looked right in me and my husband's eyes and said, "Don't worry, Mom and Dad. You'll have another baby and their body will work." Spoiler alert, she was right, but I had work to do. So what happened? Why did this happen? My labs were normal. Her autopsy was normal, but I didn't stop seeking answers. My favorite OBGYN in Los Angeles, Dr. Mary Kerr, went through all my files and suggested I get tested for Antiphospholipid Syndrome, APS, which leads to blood clotting issues that can result in miscarriage and life-threatening pregnancy complications. APS is detectable through a simple blood test and can be managed with blood thinners. She was right. I was positive. My moment of relief was outshadowed by my realization that this was preventable. If I had known I had APS, I would have taken blood thinner and Rosie would be here. Why wasn't I aware that I had APS? Because it's only tested in women after loss. Not 1, but 2 or sometimes 3 losses. Is it really rare? No. 55% of multiple miscarriages are due to antiphospholipid syndrome. After a 1.5 years of grief work, therapy, and lots of prayers, I got pregnant again. This time I took blood thinner, and Pixie Rose, our double rainbow baby angel, arrived safely in October of 2022. Carmela got her little sister. I'm so glad that my story has a happy ending, but let's make a change so that no one has to have my story again. Let's not get angry, let's get inspired. This isn't about the past, this is about giving a purpose to my Rosie's life. It's about saving babies and helping all women, families, and kids avoid the anguish that I experienced. I am here to raise awareness about a blood test that can determine this treatable autoimmune disease. Since Rosie died, I've told everyone and anyone who would listen, but this spring I finally had the privilege to tell my story to members of Congress, and I am overjoyed that Reps Kat Cammack and Sydney Kamlager-Dove have joined forces together to introduce this resolution urging the APS test to be included in the first trimester prenatal screening. Please give everyone this test before they have a loss. I truly believe that this is Rosie's purpose and that we can turn something heartbreaking into something beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I'm Congresswoman Young Kim, and I have the pleasure of representing California's 40th Congressional District in Southern California, and I also serve as co-chair of the Maternal Care Caucus. I want to thank my colleagues, Congresswoman Kat Cammack, and Sydney Kamlager-Dove for your leadership on this very, very important resolution. And I want to thank Christina Perri for bravely sharing your stories and using your platform to help other families. And it was such a pleasure meeting you when you came to Congress and lobby on this very important issue. And from there, you haven't stopped. And I want to thank you for that. Too many families know the heartbreak of pregnancy loss, often without answers. You know, I'm a mom of three daughters and grandma of two beautiful grandchildren. So I know how deeply personal maternal health is. And my heart goes out to every parent who has faced this pain. That's why I've long worked on bipartisan efforts to improve maternal health, whether it's through strengthening research, eliminating cost barriers, or expanding access to care. Every mom deserves the chance to have a healthy pregnancy, and every family deserves peace of mind. So expanding prenatal screening for APS is critical, and it's a common sense step. APS, as you heard, is treatable. With early detection, doctors can provide the right care, moms can be reassured, and families can be spared preventable tragedies. This is not a partisan issue, and it is not a blue or red issue. It is a human one. So together we can raise awareness, expand access, and make sure that no family has to face the heartbreak of pregnancy loss without answers or hope. So I want to thank again my colleagues for working on this resolution, and I'll work with my colleagues and keep working across the aisle to improve maternal health and ensure that every mom, baby, and family in America has the care and support they deserve. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Congresswoman Alma Adams, and I am privileged to represent the 12th Congressional District in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, North Carolina. I'm also a mother, and I am a grandmother of 4. And just recently, my great-granddaughter celebrated her first birthday. I am also the co-founder of the Black Maternal Health Caucus. So I do understand the issues that my colleagues have talked about. And Christina, thank you so much for sharing your story. My daughter has had several mishaps, and which is why I became interested in the Black Maternal Health Caucus. But today I stand with my colleague, Kamlager-Dove and Congresswoman Cammack. Thank you both for bringing this to the attention. You know, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. So the opportunity to come together and to have not only a press conference, but to alert Congress about the many things that are going on. And you are so right. If men had this problem, we wouldn't have to worry about it. But I do want to thank you all for being here and to say how important it is to bring awareness to the important issue of APS and pregnancy loss. And I want to thank Ms. Perri for joining us in Washington today and to advocate for this issue and to share your powerful story. Indeed, it was not only powerful but meaningful, but I'm glad that ultimately you had some great outcomes. But far too long we know that stillbirth has been a silent crisis, and that remains under-discussed, under-researched, and of course underfunded. 21,000 babies in the U.S. are stillborn every year, 1 in 4 being preventable. It's an issue that impacts our families, our communities, with thousands of mothers and children needlessly losing their lives every year. Combating pregnancy loss is not a partisan issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue. As a matter of fact, it is a human issue, as you've heard. It's an American issue for each and every American woman and family that will have to address this issue. And so combating pregnancy loss is not a partisan issue, as we've said. And of course, we have some real impactful bipartisan support in Congress to address it. And so when I introduced the Stillbirth Prevention Act last year, it received almost unanimous support in both chambers before being signed into law, including from both of my colleagues who are here today. And through today's resolution, Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove and Congresswoman Cammack are continuing this bipartisan work that's saving lives across this country. And I am so grateful, and we all are, for the work that you're doing and for bringing this resolution today. By expanding prenatal screening for APS, we can help prevent miscarriages, stillbirths, and pregnancy complications from this treatable condition. And let me say that again, treatable condition. And I'm proud to support the resolution today because no parent should have to experience the pain and the loss of their child. So again, I want to thank the Congresswomen. I want to thank our very fearless advocate for coming out today. Ms. Perri, thank you for leading this charge and on this issue. And I look forward to continuing our shared mission of bringing an end to preventable pregnancy loss in America. We can do something about it. We should do something about it. We know better. We can do better. Thank you.
That was great.
Well, thank you all. I want to thank Kat and Sydney for their leadership on this, and Christina in particular. It's been said, but let me reinforce just how meaningful this is. I mean, this is an incredibly talented and busy person who's got an insanely complicated and successful career and is a mother and has a ton on her plate, and yet because she doesn't want to see this happen to anyone else, she's here advocating. This is not her music. That's not. She didn't write that.
That's not one of her songs.
So dance break.
But it really is remarkable. Obviously, it takes a lot of courage. It's also just a lot of hard work, and it's not easy. And so, and when this gets done, it won't just have this immense impact on people's lives, but it'll be because she decided that she was going to lock in and make sure this happened, and we were just the vehicles. I care about this. My wife and I have two children, almost 16, almost 14, which is crazy. When we were first, I just said it. When she was first pregnant, I would go around and I would say, I was very excited. I was so excited to be a dad, and I would say, we're pregnant. And I had one woman who I loved. She said, "You're not anything," and it was true. Like I just was excited. It was not my mother, but it was a mother-like figure. She was like, "You're not anything." But then, about 8-9 weeks later, my wife had a miscarriage, and it happened in the middle of the night. I didn't hear her get up. She got up to go to the bathroom. We were staying at a hotel, so it was very disorienting. And all I heard was a thud. Like I woke up to a thud. And she was in the bathroom. She had lost so much blood that she lost consciousness, hit her head, and was out. So there I go running into the bathroom, and she's unconscious in a pool of blood. And ultimately we got her to the hospital very quickly. She got the care she needed. She had another miscarriage, and then we had our first child, and then another miscarriage. And each one takes its toll. That first one was one I'll obviously never forget. And to know that some of this, not all of it, but some of it's preventable. And what's frustrating about this one is that everyone knows, or at least the people who need to know, they know that this is something they could add to the blood work that gets done. They're doing blood work. Just add this one test to the blood work that you're already doing. It's not that expensive. And yes, it's more expensive when something bad happens. It's also just a loss of life. That alone should be enough to add it to the blood work. And while the resolution is hugely important and Congress should act, it is an indictment on our healthcare system that we have to, that they don't just add it. And so they could act without us, but the fact is this is a nonpartisan issue, a bipartisan issue, and it'll get done in large part because of Christina. So thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I know we're a bit over time, but does anyone have any questions for Christina or any of our colleagues? Start with our friend over here.
Quick question. What's the path forward? Are you confident that the bipartisan unity that we've seen with support of someone like, Christina can galvanize and unite the rest of your colleagues and leadership around supporting this particular resolution? What's next now that you put it in the public domain in this way?
I absolutely feel very confident that this resolution is going to move forward very quickly. We've been working with House leadership to make sure that this hits the floor, but I think Christina, from her platform, she has an incredible story to tell. And you heard my colleague talk about the statistics. Virtually every one of us has either experienced a miscarriage or we know someone who has. And so every family has been affected by this. We know that this is something that American families want to see, and this is the kind of work that they expect out of us. So I foresee this being, I don't want to say easy, because there's nothing easy in Washington, D.C., and common sense is not common up here, as we know. But I think that this is such a personal issue to so many that this is going to have a very aggressive path moving forward.
And I know we have to go, but what's the importance of men telling their part of the story and not overshadowing women and the pain that obviously women carrying babies go through? But what's the importance of men being vulnerable in the way that you just demonstrated to let men know that they're not alone and that they're part of the pain and process?
Oh, you want me to
Yes,
answer?
man. You are a man.
Come on.
I think just what Kat said, which is that most of the people in this building have had some experience with this, and it's important to remember your experience, because sometimes if it didn't happen to you because you weren't the one who was pregnant, but you were in the room, you felt the pain, you still feel the pain, it's just a much easier yes vote.
Wall Street Journal. I can speak to basically our broken healthcare system, which is not a healthcare system, it's sick care. It wouldn't surprise me one bit that they cited a financial cost, but I know Christina can speak to what some of the treatment options were presented to her, and when she shares them, you're going to be shaking your head, because it is absolutely ludicrous that this is not a standardized test and the treatment is very affordable. So if you want to speak to that.
Okay, thank you. So from the research I've done over the past 4 years, I've learned overall that I think it's an oversight. It's not that this has been presented before and anyone said no. It's just an update that needs to happen based on a need that's new. So I don't think insurance companies say no to something like this. I think it just has to get added, and if it goes into the prenatal screening that women are already having multiple blood vials drawn, then it doesn't cost the mom anything extra. I don't know the logistics of what it costs the labs, but it wouldn't cost the mother anything extra to have this test if it's included. And then if you do test positive for antiphospholipid syndrome or any of the blood clotting conditions, you can take baby aspirin to be safe, or if you test higher on a scale, you could take Lovenox shots, which is what I did when I was pregnant with my daughter Pixie, and they're daily shots, and they didn't cost any money. I think it cost $5 for like Walgreens, to get every month. So I have insurance, but I think that, it's really nothing for the mom and everything for your family. So it's worth it.
It certainly costs less than having to go to the hospital or urgent care because you're in the middle of a miscarriage, or going to the hospital to try to deliver and having stillbirth. Just like it costs a lot less than having to go to the hospital for them to make the miscarriage procedure.
Last question.
Hi, Congresswoman. Thanks for doing this. I wonder if you and Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove can talk about how you got to work on this issue on a bipartisan basis, and why you think it is that so many of the major bipartisan efforts in this Congress have been led by women, especially on issues of women's health.
I think I can say very candidly now as a new mom, moms just know how to multitask and we know how to get things done. And that might be why you see more bipartisan efforts coming out of the women, even though we represent a minority in Congress. But as far as us coming together, I have to give it to Christina. She is the driving force behind this effort. I wouldn't have even known about APS, even as a pregnant woman who, as considered by science and our doctors, geriatric mother, requiring all sorts of additional testing. I hadn't been tested for APS. So without her advocacy, without her courage to come forward, this wouldn't be happening. And so she has been the driver in really bringing us together to make this a reality here today. And I'll let Sydney say.
Yeah, I'm also going to give the credit to Christina. We bonded over a common story of having a miscarriage and wanting answers to questions that were not easy to come by. And such a simple test, right, that could prevent this from happening, that is of little cost, that would help save a life and protect the heart of those folks wanting to be parents, was a no-brainer. So just incredibly grateful that other colleagues, men and women, wanted to step up and be part of it, and also really grateful to Congresswoman Cammack for leading the charge on the Republican side.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much to these incredible people and everybody who showed up today, for giving me the space to share my story. And just thank you.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.